We think that Chargers first-round pick Quentin Johnston has the talent to have a productive season as a rookie, but he's not coming for Keenan Allen's throne yet.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeyer, and we've been covering the Chargers together for 7 seasons now, but this is our 5th season as a host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you guys, as always, for making us your first listen today, and to make sure you never miss a show, go subscribe or follow for free on YouTube and listen wherever you get your podcast. David, what do we got today?
Well, it's mailbag time. We turn the show over to you and your questions, and we got some great ones, like always. I mean, you guys never disappoint, but, great questions like who's going to have the most yards out of Zay Flowers, Bijan Robinson, Dalton Kincaid, and Michael Mayer, and, of course, Quentin Johnston, and also which rookie is going to be the fan favorite out of the 2023 class, and a lot more of your awesome questions.
Yeah, and more importantly, who's going to have more yards, Quentin Johnston or Keenan Allen, because that is a question we're going to be answering today, because we do have one from Bolt Up Andrew, who asks, who finishes the season with more yards, Quentin Johnston or Keenan Allen? Keenan will get more targets, but Johnston has more big play ability. I mean, I think that's definitely true. To me, though, David, it's pretty simple. Keenan Allen clears if he's healthy.
Oh yeah, I mean, I know you probably want this to be a little bit closer than it actually will be, but there's a myriad of different factors that go along with this. Is Keenan Allen and Justin Herbert, I've already established a rapport, and he is probably his number one target. He's looking for on first down. He's looking for him on third down. Keenan has a innate ability to get open. He understands what defenders are trying to do to him. He also understands what the defenses are doing and finding the soft spots in the zone. So I just think, given that information, Keenan Allen is going to outperform Quentin Johnston.
Yeah, I think you should definitely, temper your expectations just about Quentin Johnston coming in and having, an Odell Beckham, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson kind of a season, because I think those dudes were going to be asked to do a lot more. As we see it right now, Quentin Johnston comes in as wide receiver 4. Like, to me, I don't think it'll take him long to get on the field, because he just brings a dynamic that the Chargers don't get with Josh Palmer, who probably goes into camp as wide receiver 3. I just think that stylistically, what makes sense most for Kellen Moore's offense is to have someone like this playing in kind of what he had CD Lamb playing in, right? In that type of a role. That's what I would see most likely with someone like Quentin Johnston to have the yak ability, along with Keenan Allen's route running and Mike Williams', jump ball ability and everything else, and more of a deep threat option too with Quentin Johnston than you've seen from Josh Palmer in the past. Comes in as wide receiver 4, and he has to earn his way onto the field early, right? And let's look at, what other guys have done. I mean, Josh Palmer as a rookie had 33 catches for about 350 yards. So that was somehow way better than Mike Williams, who even as a, number 7 overall picked before Patrick Mahomes and other good players. 11 catches, 95 yards, and 0 touchdowns. Was banged up a little bit. Never really got the chemistry in year 1. But I think it also kind of shows you, hey, if you don't get a huge season out of Quentin Johnston right away, David, there's no reason to panic yet. Like, this is a move to help you contribute right now, and I think it makes you better offensively, even if he doesn't put up big numbers, because I think it makes you a more efficient offense with him and what he brings skill set-wise. But also, I don't think, him not having a good season this year means he's not going to be good for you down the road.
Absolutely not. And not everybody is going to come into the league being a Rashawn Slater and, turning in an all-pro performance in their rookie season. You're also going to have a lot of your Zion Johnsons, where you're going to have an up and down type of season. These players are going to progress at different timelines. So it's going to take a little bit of different time. Don't just come in and expect that Quentin Johnston is going to come in and tear it up and he's going to go over 1,000 yards and he's going to catch 65, 70 balls. That could happen, but I would temper the expectations a little bit. There's a lot of mouths to feed on this offense, and there's not saying that he doesn't have the ability, but there's only one football to go around.
Well, and I made one very specific caveat, right? If Keenan Allen is healthy.
Yes,
that's the
of
one
course.
big thing that you just can't know. And that is the one easiest way you could see more having to be put on Quentin Johnston's plate.
Yeah.
But to me, the thing that makes most sense, Quentin Johnston, Mike Williams on the outside, Keenan Allen in the slot. And to me, that's, I think, the most talented wide receiver trio. And I compared him to Josh Palmer, but as a first-round pick, something more is going to be expected from him, obviously. So let's get to Colby Talbert, who on Twitter asked, who has the better season? Zay Flowers, Bijan Robinson, Dalton Kincaid, Michael Mayer, or Quentin Johnston, given their QB situation, offense, and coordinator, who is going to put up the better numbers if healthy all season? David, I know Chargers fans want to hear Quentin Johnston's name right here. Is that who you're going with?
Unfortunately, no, it's not what I'm going with. And I think my previous answer probably alluded to that. It's just coming into this Chargers offense, there is so many different people that you want to get the football to, and he's not going to be featured enough for me to feel like he is going to be able to get enough yards to be the one to win over this question. So I think given all of these guys' situations and what they're going into, I think when you look at Zay Flowers in Baltimore, you have OBJ, obviously he's going to get a lot of attention. You have Mark Andrews that is one of Lamar Jackson's main weapons, but outside of that, they have a couple of other guys, but they're been dealing with injuries and a little bit unproven. I think Zay Flowers is going to get a ton of opportunities, and I think that is the reason why I feel like he's going to be the one that is going to earn the most yards out of this group.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I mean, who knows what Odell Beckham Jr. comes back looking like. To me, I think the biggest thing is not having seen Todd Monken's offense, and it can't be any worse than Greg Roman's offense was for wide receivers. But I do think, Rashad Bateman's good. If he's healthy, we'll see how he plays into it, right? They have guys like Devin Duvernay and some other options. But it's really Mark Andrews and Odell who you'd say, right now, okay, those guys are clearly probably not going to get surpassed by Zay Flowers during this offseason. And I could see it happening. I think he definitely has an offensive rookie of the year bid. I'm going with Bijan Robinson with Arthur Smith for a couple of different reasons. I mean, for me, I think you don't take a running back top 8 unless you plan on him being a huge focal point of your offense. And Arthur Smith is one of the few offensive minds that we've seen in the league that when he did have a bell cow kind of game-changing running back in Derrick Henry, they ran their entire offense around him, and they didn't need much good quarterback play to keep that offense going. They have Desmond Ridder slated to start for them at quarterback this year.
They're going to run the ball a lot.
The biggest thing is, though, is like, what if they're not any good? Like Garrett Wilson won in a bad situation, a bad quarterback situation last year in New York. So like you can get around it, and like you don't necessarily have to be on a great team to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think the other guys were like Kenneth Walker, who was on a playoff Seattle team, and then also you have someone like Dameon Pierce, who probably never had a chance on the Texans. But like I think he has a good chance, David. But for Quentin Johnston, I think the best case you could make for him, right, is looking at what CeeDee Lamb did when he was a rookie, right? When Kellen Moore actually had CeeDee Lamb and they, were together. His rookie year, he had 75 catches for over 900 yards, right? And they had Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup and with injuries and things like that too. So like we know that Kellen Moore wanted this dude and has a vision for what this dude's going to be in the offense. It's just too soon to say, how soon that's going to click, how early they're going to get him involved, how many tight end sets they're going to be running with.
Yeah, how many plays are dedicated to him, right?
And how much more they're going to be running the football, right? We hear all the time people are going to be committed to the run. We don't really know that at this point. I'm not going to go with Michael Mayer or Dalton Kincaid just because it's so hard to produce big, eye-popping numbers as a rookie. And I'm just not going to pick a Raider either. That wouldn't be any fun. But I think that, out of all these guys, like you could make it argument for Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis as far as receivers go. You can make an argument for Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow, but like Quentin Johnston has as much wide receiver and receiving talent around him as any of these dudes do. I just think, taking it with the top 10 pick, I mean, the Falcons could run the ball 750 times this upcoming season. Like, truly, who knows? And Bijan is such a good receiving threat as well. Like, I could see him putting together a pretty well-rounded stat sheet as a rookie, David. So that's where I would go. But, like, I could see all these guys in good scenarios, doing big things in year one because I was high on pretty much all of those guys. But other guys we were high on, David, after we got to watch them were Daiyan Henley and also Scott Matlock, who both I think are, could be fan favorites for very different reasons. One's very bubbly and happy and, fun, and the other one wants to snatch souls. Which one will be a bigger fan favorite in 2023? We're going to talk about that. And also, maybe we're just assuming Jamari Sawyer is going to be good at guard, even though we haven't really seen it yet. So we're going to be getting into that. But first, I need to tell you guys about my favorite protein bar in the world. And of course, I'm talking about Built Bar. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. And right now, guys, I don't know if you guys saw the secret flavor that they just released, but peanut butter puff is one of my new favorites for sure. Now you add that to a catalog that has limited flavors like snickerdoodle chunk, right? You have cinnamon churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond. There's so many great flavors to choose from, always from Built Bar. And I really do think that's kind of what sets them apart, because when you're on a diet, you want to switch things up. You don't want to have to eat the same things over and over again. I promise there will be multiple flavors that you like with Built Bar. And the great thing is right now, you guys can find them at Walmart, and you can go buy yourself a 4-bar box. You don't have to wait by the mailbox anymore. You can go to Sam's Club and get a 13-bar box if you want to, and that's the way I do it. Might as well just buy in bulk. But if you still want to go online to get them, you can, and you can save some money. If you go to BuiltBar.com, you can use the promo code LOCKEDON15, and you'll get 15% off your next order. Let's continue this Chargers mailbag day. It was going to be Fan Mail Friday, but tomorrow, something interrupted that because we have a huge crossover in the offseason. Yes, tomorrow, everydayers, you know what Crossover Thursday is, and now we're doing Crossover Friday this week with the Chargers Unleashed podcast, doing a little draft roundtable. So we're going to have a kind of a best of episode of all of that on tomorrow's show, so make sure you're back here for that. But today, David, we're getting into all of the fan questions and getting into the biggest Twitter questions. And this one I have here is a really, really good question that we have from Marcus Boyd, who's asking, who will be a fan favorites as a rookie? Daiyan Henley or Scott Matlock? David, who'd you go with?
Man, this is a really, really tough question because I really like both of these guys, and I think it's really hard not to. And I like them for different reasons, just because I love Scott Matlock's mentality and just the way he's going into things, and his fire.
When you're in the Army and stuff too, man, like there's just something to like that kind of crazy that like you want to be in the foxhole with that dude, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. That'd be a guy you want to go to war with. I mean, speaking as a guy who has actually been to war, I mean, I have been to Afghanistan in my past, so yeah, you want that guy in the foxhole with you, definitely. But honestly, I'm probably gonna go with Daiyan Henley. I just he's so much fun. Like seems like he has a great personality, a really fun person to talk to and be around. And I feel like he's gonna be a glue guy. He's really gonna bring the spirits up.
Yeah, I agree.
People are gonna get hype, and I feel like he's going to get on the field at some point too, and he's going to be able to make an impact there as well. And I think that is what's going to put the cherry on top for him.
Yeah, and I think this is a good way to kind of talk about, what their role could be, just because, like, being a fan favorite, a lot of times you have to be on the field. Sometimes you have, guys like Braden Fehoko that during NFL Hard Knocks, he's out there doing the haka, and he can win over a fan base on the practice squad, basically.
Right there, yes.
For the most part, though, you have to be on the field being able to make plays, and you can make plays even without getting on the field on offense, right, or defense in this case, by special teams, right? And one of these dudes in Scott Matlock had multiple field goals blocked in college and also blocked at PAT.
Yeah.
And Daiyan Henley also played over 600 snaps in special teams in his career, right? So, like, that could be a way these guys early on, because remember Drew Tranquil with the 2 blocked punts? Like, that way he was a fan favorite, and people wanted him on the field, and he actually got on the field from that. So I think both of those guys have that going for them and could make their name that way, at least at the beginning. But I think injuries could give Scott Matlock a boost early on. I mean, linebacker is much less of a rotational position, right? Like, if you're the two starting linebackers, you're probably
they're on the field most of the time,
I do think Daiyan Henley, especially from a coverage standpoint and athletic standpoint, could get on in sub packages early, and I think that's his advantage. But I think Scott Matlock, when you look at, these are who the healthy defensive tackles are right now. Morgan Fox, Sebastian Joseph Day, and then it's guys like David Moa and Christopher Hinton, right? Guys who kind of tagged along last year. David Moa actually played at Boise State, like Scott Matlock, so that's kind of funny too. He might be competing with that dude for a job. Has no problem with it because
he's trying to take a grown man's job.
He said he's trying to take a grown man's job, right? So, but I think that's the other thing too, is early on, I mean, if it's just Morgan Fox, Sebastian Joseph Day healthy, and you still have Austin Johnson working his way back from an injury, and you still have Tito working his way back for an injury, like that could open up easier personalities or easier opportunities. But I think personality-wise, you have to be kind of also a little crazy to not be scared by Scott Matlock. I think Daiyan Henley is the more palatable option for sure, the much more everyone speed type of a player. And also, who knows, is he going to be competing with Kenneth Murray from week 1? Like, is he going to go into training camp with a job, potentially on the line? I think a role on the line for sure. I don't know, though. But to me, he's the defensive Josh Kelly. What do you think about that? Just like,
I agree with that for
Yeah.
sure, because Josh Kelly, if you've met him, if you talk to him, he just has the biggest smile in the world, a smile that's going to light up the room, and he has that kind of personality. Daiyan Henley is very, very similar to that. I agree. I think that's a great comp there.
Yeah, I think he's like a mix of like Josh Kelly and Derwin James. Like competitive, super competitive fire
Right.
kind of, but also always has kind of a smile on his face.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see what both these dudes are going to do, but he's definitely the
Absolutely,
happier
yes.
of the two. But
Yeah.
I do want to talk about another rookie that could be forced into action for a different reason, because David, right now we're all just assuming that Jamari Sawyer, because he was so good playing left tackle as a rookie, is going to be good this year as well at guard.
Hey guys, it's Weston. Just calling in with one quick question. So Jamari Sawyer played pretty good at left tackle, like you guys were talking about, for a guard, and he was obviously good as a guard in college. What if our planning doesn't go as we thought, and he's like not a good guard in the NFL for whatever reason? What do you think the likelihood of that happening is, and what do we do if that happens? Thanks, guys.
David, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't really have any like bad feelings about Jamari Sawyer getting plugged in at guard. I think when you look at, like his size and his play style, I think it's already better suited for guard. I think he is a guy that has the flexibility, as he had shown, to play tackle, and I think he has the mentality. But you kind of have to switch that up a little bit when you go inside. There's a little bit, as he said, things come at you a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
You have to set a little bit differently. But he already showed that he could play that at a high level in college. And I really don't feel like there's any reservations that he can't do it at the NFL level as well. I feel very good about that move.
I think it's fair.
I feel like, you put him also in there with Corey Linsley in the middle, and you have Trey Pipkins on the outside. I feel like you're just putting him in a very, very good situation with a lot of quality players around him. I just don't have any bad feelings about Jamari Sawyer being your starting guard.
Yeah, I mean, he's switching positions and switching sides, right? So it is definitely a learning curve.
Of course.
Very hard for me to believe he's going to be terrible.
Right.
That's just it, for what he did early on. Like, it's hard for me to believe he's going to be terrible at guard. It's hard for me to believe he's going to be worse than some of the moments we saw from Matt Feiler last year at guard. But let's be honest. Very worst case scenario, he comes in as terrible. That's why you draft Jordan McFadden, right? That's why you continue to address the position and keep building depth there. So you have guys who can push these guys. And also, worst case scenario, he's a great swing tackle. And you have a great swing tackle for 3 years on a rookie contract. So, like, there's really nothing that could...
He gave up 5 sacks last year, Daniel, but 3 of them came in the same game against Chandler Jones. Okay, so besides
one really
that,
bad game, sure.
He gave up 2 sacks pretty much the entire season outside of one game. I mean, the guy is really good. And I feel like if you can play left tackle at an adequate level in the NFL, then I have no reservations about your ability to play guard.
Yeah, it's different, but it should be
It
easier.
is.
We'll see.
But
we do have another question. Let's get to this one quickly from Laszlo, who asks, will Alohi Gilman or Jasir Taylor be starting in week 1? David, what do you think?
Yeah, I think if we're talking about these two players and the likelihood of either one of them starting, I feel like it's probably going to be Jasir Taylor, just because he was getting starting snaps at the end of last year in certain sub packages. I feel like they kind of groomed him to be that slot corner, and they haven't really made any other moves outside of that. The other corners that they have in the room are kind of set. You got Asante Samuel Jr. on the outside, Michael Davis as well. You don't know what's going to happen with J.C. Jackson. That could change things, obviously. That could force Asante Samuel Jr. to go in the slot, just depending on if J.C. Jackson's ready to go. But I think as of right now, because of that uncertainty, I have Jasir Taylor being the starter.
I mean, Alohi Gilman started more games down the stretch than Jasir Taylor did, right? I mean, he fully took Nazir Adderley's job down the stretch of the season last year and had him playing in a backup role. So I think both of them, I mean, J.C. Jackson could easily be back, and then you see what happens if they want to move Asante Samuel Jr. down in the slot. It seems like it would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Or you could have a John Johnson or a Bryce Callahan thrown into this situation, right?
Yes.
So I think, to me, we knew this, we wanted more competition at safety. That could still happen, but it's been a while, obviously. Yeah. And at corner, I think they like what they have, right? And we don't know what they're feeling about J.C. Jackson. So I do think that probably one of them is starting week 1. If I had to guess, I don't think it's going to be both of them starting, but I think you probably will have one of those guys potentially starting, a question mark for sure, given the limited sample size we've seen from them starting in week 1, based on what the roster and the depth chart looks like right now, based on what we saw from them at the end of last season. I guess you could say Lohi Gilman has JT Woods pushing him potentially, but we saw what JT Woods looked like, so that's kind of hard to believe, at least until we actually see him out there doing it. But we do have more to get into, including if just bringing in new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore is enough to get the Chargers over the hump offensively, and if we could see Austin Ekeler get traded to the Chiefs for a second-round pick, would you do it? We're going to get into it right after this. We have more of our Chargers mailbag to get into, but make sure you guys are back here tomorrow for a super special crossover edition of the Locked On Chargers podcast with the Chargers Unleashed podcast. Our boys, Dan and Jake over there, happy to get on with them and have a little draft roundtable discussion. And don't worry, guys, because we'll be back on Monday as well as we always are. Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and we'll be talking about undrafted free agents and the guys we think have the best chance to be the latest Charger to join a very historic legacy of undrafted free agents to make the Chargers roster. But let's start here with Alan from Twitter, who's asking, is the addition of Kellen Moore enough to get the Chargers over the hump and make a deep run in the postseason? David, I hate trying to answer these things in May, but at the same time, we now see more or less what the Chargers roster is. I think there still could be a couple of, tweaks to it, and we've seen Tom Telesco tweak this time of year. That sounded bad. We've seen Tom Telesco augment the roster around this type of year with guys like Morgan Fox, Bryce Callahan. What do you think about this question, though?
Yeah, definitely. I think, with this in particular, I don't think it's enough. It's not just Kellen Moore being the guy that's going to come in and be able to get the most out of it, because he's not the only factor that you have to put into the equation. The health is so very important, and that's something you can't really control, and you just don't know what this team is going to look like in September when the games start getting played and they start mattering. So there's just so much time between now and then until I feel comfortable answering this question. Do I feel like they are stepping in the right direction? Absolutely, yes. I think Kellen Moore is the right guy. I'm excited to see how he's going to be able to get more out of the running game, how he's going to get the most out of Justin Herbert. I'm very excited about those aspects, but there's just more that goes into it.
Yeah, I mean, what's the defense going to look like, right?
Exactly.
We have no idea. I mean, the biggest thing is always health. Like, if you could, guarantee me health, I still wouldn't say just having Kellen Moore is enough, but, I would say that the Chargers offense has been pretty good, or was pretty good, was really good a couple of years ago, right? Even when it was flawed, and I mean, good defenses exposed it at times, even when they were a top 5 offense. I have full belief that the Chargers offense is going to be better. Really, the only big weapon they added was Quentin Johnston, right? Darius Davis, we'll see what that role is. Right. But as far as offensive players go, that's the one guy you think could make instant contributions, right? How much better does he make you as an offense? I would say this. Kellen Moore, with a potentially healthier, better offensive line, and improved Daiyan Johnson, a returning Rashawn Slater, Jamari Sawyer going to a position he's better fit for, that could be a true game changer with the help of Corey Linsley, if that can stay intact, right? And I think also I think Kellen Moore is going to be better for Justin Herbert as a former quarterback, as someone who's been a top 5 offensive coordinator in the NFL statistically over the last 4 seasons. I think that is a better thing for Justin Herbert. And if you're telling me the Chargers haven't improved Justin Herbert and, a little bit more explosiveness offensively, and you can potentially get more games out of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams this year, I don't know what the ceiling for that team is yet.
What's
we'll
the limit of that, right?
Yeah, I don't know. But better for sure. And I think it keeps you in pretty much every game if you're going to tell me, they have Kellen Moore now and potentially what that brings to the table. But we have to see it, right? We have to see what this Kellen Moore offense looks like, because he doesn't have the exact same pieces as what he had in Dallas. But I think you could argue comparable, if not even better weapons potentially that the Chargers have here right now. But I do want to get to this Austin Ekeler trade question, and Donnie from Wisconsin, halftime Packer fan, halftime Charger fan, is trying to make us answer tough questions here today.
What's up, guys? This is Donnie from Wisconsin. Love the draft. Love Quentin Johnston at 41. Going to be awesome for fantasy. Quick question. Do you think Ekeler would get traded during the season? What if the Chiefs offered a second? Would you send him there? Let me know. Bye.
David?
No way at all. Sorry. First of all, I'm never trading inside the division ever. I don't care who it is. I'm not doing it. I don't care if it's the last guy on the 53-man roster. I am not helping anyone in my division at all. No. And just to address the first question, will Austin Ekeler get traded in the season? Also, no, it's not happening. They just don't make trades that way. They don't make moves in that fashion. I don't see it happening. No.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because like a second round pick is a lot. Given what running backs value are, that is a ton. It also depends what is the situation of your season, right? If you're telling me the Chargers, trade deadline, we'll say around week 10, somewhere around there, right? Maybe a little later. Like the Chargers are 5-5, right in contention. If they're better than that, if they're 7-3, I don't see them giving away a big piece of their offense to a competitor, right? Like you would have to think the only way that would happen is if you're totally out of contention.
Yeah,
pretty
if they're
early
out
on,
of it,
right?
yeah.
Like if it's you just been a bad team, or maybe he's hurt and you have guys like Isaiah Spiller and Josh Kelly start popping off, maybe you could entertain a second round pick. But to the Chiefs makes it way, way harder to swallow, obviously. But it's hard, Dave, because at the end of the day, you could lose him for nothing and have him and Josh Kelly headed into unrestricted free agency next season, right? And you want to get something more than you want nothing, and it doesn't seem like something's getting resolved down the road. Are you going to help the Chiefs win another Super Bowl? I don't think you can do it. So
I can't.
Yeah, I know. I get it. I mean, I get it. For you especially, like, you can't help, your division rival. You can't help them
Also,
win
I just
another
don't
Super
see the
Bowl.
Chiefs wanting to keep a player that they're going to have to pay $10+ million.
Yeah, they're
to
not
at the
playing
running back
that
position.
No,
It's just
no.
not happening.
Well, yeah, it won't happen. It's would you do it though?
No.
In all likelihood, no. They're not going
Still
to trade
no.
him during the season unless things were totally off the rails. But I do have a question here from super fan Zach, really quick. Will we see more games for the Chargers in their alternate uniforms, the Royal and Navy? They are too cool to be shown only one game a year each. I don't remember I couldn't figure out how many times the Chargers had used their alternate jerseys last season, but I think they usually get pretty close to the maximum, which is 3. So you can only do alternate jerseys up to 3 times in a season. I think that's why we don't see them more. I love all their alternates. They just have the best jerseys. The regular jerseys are the best.
Best jerseys
Their
in sports,
alternates are great.
period.
Yeah, the undefeated, never lost. So let's get to this last voicemail here from fan favorite, Atir, and he's fed up. David, Atir is upset right now. Let's hear what he has.
Hi, Dan. Hi, David. David, I have a question. Chargers are killing me. What is going on with Herbert's contract? Come on, my bro. Please, help me. Lamar just got paid. What are we waiting for? Bro, to get $350 million? Come on. What is going on? Please.
God, Atir, it's so raw. The
Desperation, man.
I
it
feel
is
your
there.
passion. Like your passion just, literally comes through my speakers and warms my heart. And I understand your frustration. I would just say this, like Jalen Hurts was the highest paid quarterback ever, right? Like that's what he was 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago. Now it's Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert will be that at some point, and there's no need to start panicking yet. Like I like we've said before, we want him to pay him as early as possible. It's better if he gets paid before Joe Burrow. Maybe they're trying to see who's going to sit out the longest, so their guy can be the highest one after the other guy. We'll see what happens. We know the contract negotiations have at least started for Justin Herbert, and Joe Burrow, right, to some extent. So I wouldn't worry about it all. It's going to happen. I'd be very, very surprised if it doesn't happen before the season.
I am not worried about this contract whatsoever. I understand. We just want to get it done. We want to see the terms. We want to know how long, but don't worry about it. There's really nothing you have to worry about. This deal is going to get done. The Chargers know who Justin Herbert is. Justin Herbert wants to be a Charger. This is going to happen. Don't worry about it. It will happen sooner rather than later. It's going to be a lot of money. He's going to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. It's going to happen. Obviously, we want it to be now, but these things take time. This is a lot of money.
Maybe it will break tomorrow during the Locked On Chargers Unleashed live show. Make sure you guys are looking out. We will be sharing all of the information for when you can watch that live draft roundtable tomorrow, crossover episode, and we will have it for you guys on our YouTube channel tomorrow and on podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure you guys are subscribing or following for free on YouTube. And make sure you're following all of our social media. You can find the show's page at Locked On LAC on Twitter, which is where we'll be sharing it out to. And you can also find it on each of our personal Twitter accounts. You can find me at Dan Talk Sports, and David Drogemeyer at DroTalkSD. Make sure you guys always follow us wherever you can as well, like on Instagram at Locked On Chargers, and you can also find us on our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. Thank you to everyone who contributed today, who called into the voicemail line at 323-524-7924. You guys really brought it today and really brought a fun episode. So we hope you guys had fun, and we hope to see you tomorrow, not only for the crossover episode on Friday, but also the undrafted free agent show and the guys most likely to make this 53-man roster. But until then, guys, take it easy and go Bolts.